Airbnb arbitrage is one of my favorite ways to make passive income. And there's so many different strategies that you can use to make your Airbnb better and more profitable. But I just wanted to share with you kind of an outline of how the process works, just so you guys have something that you can go off of and potentially even duplicate. The first thing is you need to identify a good area. Around the country, even if you're just in the US, there's so many different areas. So one of the first things that I look for is an area that doesn't necessarily have high migration, but it has really high tourism rates. And the reason that I want really high tourism is because I'm an Airbnb, right? I want people to rent my house, my condo, my apartment, whatever it is, but I don't necessarily want a lot of people moving there. And if there's a lot of people moving there, it probably means that rent prices are going up. And if I'm using an Airbnb arbitrage model, that means that I need to locate properties that I'm gonna rent myself. So if I'm renting it for $2,000 a month, I need to make sure that first of all, this is an area that has high tourism and I could potentially make $4,000 to $6,000 a month on it or more. But second of all, I need to make sure that rents in that area are not continuing to go up, because if rents are going up, I might be able to get a couple Airbnbs, maybe 2 or 3, and then maybe rents are already going to start getting high. Maybe they're going to be $2,500 a month or $3,000 a month. So I want to make sure that I'm getting these Airbnbs in areas where I don't really think that prices for actual long-term rentals are gonna go up. However, they maintain really high demand and stability for nightly rentals. So think of it like buying a 24 pack of Coke. You can go to the store, you can buy a 24 pack of Coke, and now you have 24 cans of Coke, and maybe you paid $10 for it or $15, right? But you could actually turn around and sell each one of those cans for $1.50 or maybe $2. So if you have 24 cans, you bought it for $15, right? And you're selling each one for $2. So $48 is your gross profit for selling 24 cans of Coke. Now you need to subtract the $15 that you paid to obtain the Coke, but you've still profited $33. This is exactly what we're doing with nightly Airbnb rentals. We're basically buying these nights in bulk. We're telling the homeowner, hey, I want to lease out your house for the next 3 years, and I'm going to lock in $2,000 a month. Now that I've locked in $2,000 a month, even if people are moving to the area and rents around me are going up, mine is still protected, right? But I may not be able to use that market for long. So I want to make sure that I lock in as many as I can in that scenario if I think there's a lot of migration. If there's not a lot of migration, that means that those prices for long-term rentals are probably going to stay pretty low. And if they stay low, then all of a sudden I have an opportunity to make a lot of money just by arbitraging this Airbnb. So I'm buying these nights in bulk, just like I bought that Coke in bulk. And now I'm renting it out on a nightly basis. So I might be charging $200, $300 a night for this house because it's close to the beach, or it's close to the mall, or it's close to the convention center, or whatever it is, right? You want to make sure that you go to an area that has a lot of traffic, a lot of tourism traffic, and it's close to areas that people really want to be at. So now that we've identified our area, we've identified the region, the city, the town, whatever it is, the next step is to find a homeowner who's willing to do a long-term lease with you. Now, one of the easiest ways is literally just looking on Zillow and finding rental properties. Sometimes these properties are already listed on Zillow. You can go in there, you can negotiate with the homeowner and get a rate that works for you. Remember, you want to make sure that you have a good margin there. So I usually shoot for stuff that I believe I can get 3 times as much by Airbnb-ing it than I am paying in rent. So if I'm paying $2,000 a month in rent, I want to make sure that I can make at least $6,000 a month, because that gives me room for error, right? If I'm wrong, if I totally missed out on something and I missed like a huge flaw in the house or something that really just affects my ability to rent it for Airbnb, well, that's okay, because I have such a huge margin for error. Even if I'm paying $2,000 a month and I was so wrong that I only made $4,000 in profit, I still have enough to cover my payment, any other expenses, and on top of that, I'm still making at least some sort of profit. At the end of the day, it ends up being worth it. So I want to make sure that I'm leasing houses that have a really thick margin for me to make sure that my business is stable and it's running in such a way where I'm not worried about making my monthly payments. So that's the next step. Then the third step is to make sure that you have professional marketing. Guys, the listing is the biggest factor here. You have a good location, you have a good house, a good price, right? The next thing is your marketing. You have to make sure that you have a great description of the house in the listing, something that people want to know about the house, right? So it's not just, hey, this is a nice house, check it out. We have to make sure that we're specific. Hey, this house is 5 minutes away from the beach. We have free bikes for you to use in the garage. This is actually only 2 minutes from the nearest gas station or convenience store or whatever it is, right? These are things that people want to know. because if they're new to the area, they might not even know where that house is, and they want to know, hey, how accessible is the beach? How accessible is this? Is there a pool? Is there a hot tub? You want to list those things for people so that when they read it, they're like, wow, I really want to stay here because this is close to the beach. They have free bikes for me to use. They have scooters. There's a fire pit in the back, right? All these different things, they create an atmosphere that people want to be in. And because the listing is so attractive, now people are gonna wanna rent your house. And so that brings up demand, and that can actually bring up the price that you're charging for your rental per night. Because if you have all the things that people want, all the games, all the fire pits and the pool and the bikes and the scooters and everything that people want in order to have an enjoyable vacation, well, you know, they're probably going to come back to you. So you start getting loyal customers. You start getting people that are renting from you every single year. They might make it an annual trip, and they start booking your Airbnb a year in advance or 2 years in advance. You start building like a pool of clients that you've worked with previously. And especially if you're good on the customer service side of things, right? You want to make sure that you're providing an amazing experience for these people because they've decided to stay at an Airbnb instead of a hotel. And this has to be reflected with their experience. So at a hotel, it's a pretty limited experience, but with the Airbnb, you have a lot of opportunity to make a custom experience that leaves an impression. You want to leave an impression on people so that every time they come back, they want to stay at your Airbnb. Even if your Airbnb happens to be a little bit more expensive than the others, they want to stay at specifically your Airbnb every single time they visit that town. Those are 3 steps that you can take. And then finally, the last thing that I would do is hire a management company. You don't want to handle all of this work yourself. You want to make sure you have somebody that's replying to customer inquiries, that's doing all the management, that's doing all the photography and the maintenance. And if something runs out, they're making sure that the cleaners are there and they're making sure that it's well stocked, right? You have to make sure that somebody's there managing all the aspects of the house between guests, because it's a super easy way to get a bad review if the place is not clean and a new guest comes in. Make sure you do these 4 things when you're getting an Airbnb set up, an Airbnb arbitrage business. We teach this in my program. We go super in depth on this. We go through all the steps that you need in order to run a successful Airbnb business. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.